Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Flippin' Thru. I am Matt Hall on this side.
And over here on this side, we have me, Andrew Taylor.
And I have the limited collector's edition of a psychological action thriller known as Alan Wake.
Whoa.
You can see here, it's in this thick-ass box.
All right, that is a pretty thick box. One of the thickest boxes I've ever seen. In Darkness, Fight with Light. So, Matt, this is a box set, as you said, from Alan Wake that you just got recently?
Yeah, I just picked this up on eBay because...
There's a big book in it!
It looked like a book.
Whoa!
No, so I thought, it's kind of nice.
Wait a minute, do I have to read?
Yes.
Oh.
So this has one of those nice little, oh, that's kind of cool too.
This has like the finish of a book too, where it's almost like a cloth, kind of?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Canvas type, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that type of embossing there. And when you open it up...
It was signed by Alan Wake?
It was signed by Alan Wake.
Is that a real?
That little magnetic clasp. I don't think...
That might be a real signature. Obviously not by the real Alan Wake.
And so in it...
Whoa!
We have the soundtrack.
Nice.
And a bonus disc.
Find the Lady of the Light, Matt.
And also the game itself. You can see on the inside, little instruction manual.
Ooh, it came with the manual.
Now,
you must have paid a pretty penny for this one on the used market.
I did, actually.
Hey.
So you can try that code if you want.
It's a free Xbox Live membership. Does this give you the DLC?
It says game add-on content, but who knows what that content actually is. Now, one thing that is kind of cool in here is a little Bright Falls map.
Oh my god, that's sick.
Yeah, so I didn't know that this was even here, but this is something that makes a lot more sense when you think about Alan Wake having been an open world game.
Yeah.
It's just cool, because like you could feel when you're playing that the world like went together.
Yeah, for sure.
So to speak.
There's a lot of areas that are gigantic. You know what I mean? That could lend themselves to being hub worlds that connected to other areas easily.
Yeah, big time. And so, yeah, I mean,
Wait, hold on. Is that the controls?
Yeah, so it actually has what all the buttons do in
Whoa.
it. Yeah, which is pretty crazy. Games don't usually do that.
And wait, hold on. Can I say that page one more time?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to make a control joke.
So, that's not why I got this stuff, though, because I don't even have a 360 anymore.
No, that's some old shit. Now we're doing Xbox One? S?
Xbox Series S and X.
There you go.
Get these pieces of shit out of here. Anyway, I didn't buy the box set for the game itself, although I did think it'd be good to have a hard copy because it seemed like for a time the game wouldn't be redistributed.
Yeah.
Because of licensing issues with the music.
There's a lot of licensed music in the original Alan Wake.
But it worked out in the end. They were able to secure all the rights to all that stuff, and of course with the remaster having just been announced, they've clearly sorted that all out in perpetuity.
I guess, do we have any information on if it will be all the... I'm imagining it's going to be the exact same soundtrack.
I think they got everything sorted out where it's going to be, yeah. They
Cool.
said it's the same exact game that you know and love. It's just going to look a little nicer.
Visual touches. What do we got in the back here?
So, this is a book by a man named Clay Stewart. It's called the Alan Wake Files. Well, it's compiled by Clay Stewart, which I think is important to notice. It has a couple little, blurbs in the back here. Ted Mitchell, author of Sasquatch, says it's a provocative, unnerving spellbinding, kept me up for more than a few nights.
Wow.
I don't know if I recognize any of his other names. Cliff Gantry.
That's the author of The Brown Note and Other Secret Weapons. I love that guy. He says that Bright Falls certainly deserves an entry in the Encyclopedia of Unsolved Mysteries.
While containing no direct accounts of alien abduction, the Alan Wake Files presents a chilling study that experienced ufologists will recognize from the case literature as a pre-close encounter. Can the mothership be far off? One can only anticipate with awe and trembling the next news we hear from Bright Falls. And so, blah, 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 blah. What is this? And it's also, I think it's cool that it says it's from Roundabout Press, New York and Olympia, Washington. I mean, this is a genuine article. And here it says, a brave and deeply disturbing account of one man's attempt to confront the visions that haunted him. Clay Stewart's gripping journey takes him to a small town in the Pacific Northwest, where he follows in the tracks of best-selling author Alan Wake and renegade FBI agent Robert Nightingale. There he travels even deeper into the woods and farther into the heart of darkness to unravel a series of mysterious events that reach hundreds of years into the past and chillingly into the present. And in the back here, you have a photo of Clay.
There's Clay Stewart.
He lives in Madison, Wisconsin, where he works as a library assistant. And he's been published in Zone Quarterly, the Whole Truth newsletter, and Rising Tide, and is currently at work on a psycho-literary analysis of the H.P. Lovecraft, The Alchemist. Cover photo by Barry Wheeler.
Barry Wheeler, I know that guy.
And it says Alexis Bloch provided this photo of him. So you take the dust jacket off, and there's this might be familiar to fans of Alan Wake.
The torch, the symbol of,
the Bright Falls power plant there.
yes.
And so, this is a little dinged up. That doesn't matter. I don't care what condition's in. I wanted to read it. So this is a book written by Clay Stewart, who you might recognize from the tutorial of Alan Wake. In the opening there,
Yes.
you have a dream.
In the, in our I've played 2 series of videos on the original Alan Wake, I had completely forgotten this character. So that he has what feels like a very minor role.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
then you dig a little bit deeper, and he's actually expanded greatly upon with, this collection here.
Right. So Clay, and we'll just open the book here.
All right.
Clay explains that
There he is.
he was having, to all those who walk in light.
Hey.
He explains that he was having recurring dreams. And so that dream sequence that is the opening tutorial mission in Alan Wake,
Right.
that's a dream that Alan's having. But Clay is having the same dream at the same time, and he keeps seeing Alan in his dreams.
They're where he's actually like they're existing in the same dream. They don't just keep seeing one another in the same dreams. They're in the same universe at the same time, and they can interact with one another.
But I don't think that either are totally aware that that's what's happening.
Yeah, it'd be hard to tell.
It would be impossible to tell, I would say, unless you said,
Hey, are you in a dream?
I don't know, am I? I think I am, but am I in my own or yours?
I don't know.
So
I'm glad this isn't confusing.
No, not at all. And eventually he realizes, he sees on TV Alan Wake, author of The Sudden Stop, and he goes, oh my God, that's the guy from the dream I keep having.
That's the guy from the dream.
And so he goes on a mission to find Alan Wake in Bright Falls. He's taken to Bright Falls. He feels like he has to go there, and the book explains it in great detail. But essentially, this is something that is a PDF in the game files of the special edition, which I think the PC edition all has the same special edition files.
Yes, it does.
And I just can't read the PDF the way it's formatted. It bugged me out. I really wanted to read this, so I got this as a hardcover book here that came with the special edition of the game. And spoilers maybe? Although
Maybe spoilers?
It's more like deeper context.
Yeah.
It doesn't spoil anything that's in the game per se.
It's like supplemental information where a lot of it probably won't really strike you as anything so much as, at face value, unless you know more about the continuing story and what happens in the, what takes place in the game. So I don't think it's spoilers, so you're probably fine, but,
But I would say play the game first, or maybe, read this in tandem with playing the game.
Yeah. And
So-
the PDF I found, I found the same issue. It's all very good, but not as easy to read as, having a nice little book.
And it's also formatted like this. Like each page of the PDF is 2 pages of the book together.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It'd be much easier to read if it was,
Individual.
single page format. So, my throat got all froggy there.
I heard it.
Single page format. So, Agent Nightingale is the FBI agent, the disgraced FBI agent who is chasing after Alan Wake throughout the game.
With reckless abandon.
Yes.
He has no regard for the safety of others in this kind of like blood bounty that he has on Alan Wake that will stop at nothing to capture him.
And that is explained a lot more in here than it is in the game.
I think you get like enough of a satisfactory reason as to why he's so renegade and why he's so aggro to catch Alan. But this really expands upon why that is. And I think you've summarized it a little bit, but...
Yeah, well, essentially, at one point in Alan Wake, you do go to the motel, and you find the room that Nightingale was staying in.
Yes.
Well, Clay Stewart slept in that same room, and he found Nightingale's case notes or field notes. And so these are the notes that Nightingale was making as he was chasing Alan Wake. And they're presented here. I think they even say that, you know, it's somewhat like facsimile, but they try to present it as close to, you know, it looked in the original documents.
It's even got the nice little coffee ring over on this side. That's pretty cool.
And it's also nice that they didn't just use the same exact,
oh, the cut,
fake tear, you know,
that kind of attention
paper texture.
That kind of attention to detail. I noticed that shit. So I think it's really cool because they could have just used this copy paste, you know, and then just do new text over it.
So this is, you know, basically just what he was feeling and thinking as he went through. And he has some interviews with people. He's taken photos of some of the people that he has spoken to. And this just goes on several days from the start of his investigation in Bright Falls up until the untimely end of his investigation in Bright Falls. And so this is the first section here, and I am just kind of busting through this, but I just want to show what the book's about. I think this is something that if you want to really spend some time with it and get to know it, you should, because it does really flesh out the world a lot more and help you understand the character's motivations, but also it gives you a few more glimpses into, like, what the fuck is happening in this game.
Yeah, for sure.
And they also make note, not really sure why Nightingale took this photo of this bridge.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So this note down here says, above, despite hours of scrutiny, I have been unable to determine why Agent Nightingale chose to record this somber moment.
Yeah, which is interesting.
And my instinct is to be like, oh, well, that's like a concept art picture that they took, and they just wanted to make sure that, you know, they're making use of all their assets, thinking from a game developer's side, but Remedy, time and time again, has proven that nothing is pointless. Nothing is null. You know what I mean? So yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if, this image of this bridge has some bizarre, relevance that we're not aware of just yet.
I really wouldn't doubt it. More of his field notes here. And then this part's really interesting. These are interviews, transcriptions of tapes that he had in his case files there, interviews with different people from the game. And so this is an unknown subject, but we know that he is, right here it says that he's the local troublemaker known as Mott. And he has a quick little interaction with him. And some of this stuff, like, basically, this interview takes place right around the time that Alan meets this character in the game.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of these things, because
considering what you know if you've played the game, it's interesting that this man would do an interview.
Well, and it seems like he didn't even know he was being interviewed. It seems like he just kind of had the recorder in his pocket just going.
Oh, and it was just a conversation. Okay, yeah. Interesting.
So, because of how this is all taking place in the days, that are actually occurring in the game as well, like some of the stuff here that you'll see is going to coincide with things you experience in the game from a different perspective.
All right. I read ahead a little bit, and yeah, I see it's almost like a screenplay.
Yeah. So there's Paul Randolph, the owner of the mobile home park that Rose stays in.
Great vest.
Great vest, yes.
It's cool that he's additionally fleshed out because he seemed like a character that was both like kind of benign, but also like I want to know a little bit more about Randolph. He's like the manager. He has a limp when he walks, and it's like, well, how do you get the limp?
They unfortunately don't share that, I don't think.
Fuck. All right.
There's a brief interview with Rose. This interview takes place after Rose has been affected by the Dark Presence.
Okay.
So she doesn't have all that much to say.
Interesting.
And there's a brief interview with the very low poly version of, of Barry Wheeler.
I was gonna say most of these images so far have been like really nice looking character models, but this one looking a little rough.
Yeah.
An argumentative Barry Wheeler resists divulging any secrets about Alan Wake.
Yeah, so he's protecting Wake as best he can. And we have Pat Main here,
Mr. Main, the DJ,
who also was very skeptical of Nightingale.
he did not show any support for him off the rip.
Even here he says, it was reckless, dangerous, and stupid, and you were in no condition to be working. You know, because he's fully aware that Nightingale is a drunken maniac.
Yeah, for lack of a better term.
So there's an interview with Dr. Emil Hartman,
Oh
who
my
is,
God.
I'd say, one of the main antagonists in the game.
For sure. He's definitely a main player.
So this is all very interesting. And then there's a manuscript here. So the manuscript is the manuscript from the game.
Okay, so these are the pages that Agent Nightingale found himself or seized? Or no, I'm sorry. So this is no longer part of Nightingale's case files? Or is it?
No, these are pages that Nightingale found.
Okay, so...
These might not be pages that Alan Wake was able to find.
Ah, okay.
You know? Because he never had the entire manuscript. That's one thing in the game where he's like, I don't have it, it's not done, I don't,
Yeah.
you know, this pages are scattered. And Nightingale was finding pages of the manuscript, and that's part of what fueled his chase, was he felt that Alan was, you know, some sort of dark wizard, basically, you know, using the manuscript for evil.
And he still might be, we're not sure.
And so these are a little bit out of context and a little bit out of order, but they're manuscript pages that, you know, I don't think these appear in the game.
That's interesting, though, because it'll say, like, in this previous page, in the little splash text down here, it said, testing the soil residue on the page indicates it was indeed found near Lover's Peak, which is a place that you go in the game. So I wonder if, yeah, maybe those, like you said, they could have been found there, but Nightingale got to them before Alan could.
Yeah.
Or someone else.
Because they, you know, he was on Alan's tail the whole time.
He was.
This is found in an abandoned RV. So, and these are all, you know, where these were found, they're listed. They're all locations in the game. And it's interesting this one has become ruined and obscured.
Yeah, that's cool. Looks like it may have taken some water damage.
So here is a little bit, I think we're going a little bit outside of the actual field notes, but this is some of Alan Wake's writing. And so you have a short story called Errand Boy by Alan Wake that was published in a magazine called Dark Visions, which looks like a, you know, like a horror anthology.
Yeah, we got a predator-looking guy up front.
And I don't know, I think this is cool.
Is this
It's
a
just,
transcription of that story?
yeah, it's just,
Oh, cool.
It's just an Alan Wake story. So you get to know a little bit more about Alan Wake as a writer. Because you don't, you know, aside from the manuscript, you don't really know like what his style is.
That's true.
And
yeah.
he's kind of like, he's like, well, it's, you know, it's in my style, but I don't remember writing it. So it's like this is something where he, you know, was more lucid and actually, you know, definitely writing it. And of course, this all does work to expand your understanding of, again, what the hell is going on in this
Right.
game.
It's not just a singular story that has nothing to do with the events or doesn't characterize Alan Wake in any way.
Right, not entirely.
You know, there was one character that mentioned that Alan Wake's writing was a little heavy on the metaphors, which you told me was actually a kind of like a responsive jab towards the audience who may have claimed that originally Max Payne was a little bit too heavy on the metaphors.
Totally.
So perhaps it was Sam Lake kind of, you know, getting his one in.
And speaking of Max Payne, we have Max Payne's analog in the Alan Wake universe, Alex Casey.
Alex Casey.
You have an Alex Casey story in here as well, which I think is really cool because, you know, you spend so much of the game knowing that Alan's this, like, author who's famous for writing these, you know, crime stories. Well, you know, here's an excerpt of one, which is...
So could you... so you've read this?
Not entirely, no.
Not
I haven't
entirely,
finished
okay.
it yet. It's dense. I'm about halfway through it right now, and it's...
Do you think that this story that is Alex Casey, could this be placed into the Max Payne world, you know, and swap the character out for
Oh, yeah,
Alex
for
Casey,
sure.
and this is absolutely could, you know, almost like fan fiction, but
Yeah,
not.
big time.
but
Yeah.
not. Interesting.
It's written very much like a Max Payne story.
Cool.
And then here is some nonfiction. So, what a lot of this book serves to do is to, you know, so much of the story revolves around literature and writing.
Yeah.
I mean, this lets you experience that firsthand. And so here we have Dr. Emil Hartman, who is famous for writing The Creator's Dilemma. We have The Creator's Dilemma.
Oh, you
in
can
this
actually
book.
read it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And also, this always struck me as very odd, seeing this in the lodge. And so it's a painting called The Sublime Secret.
I don't remember this.
Oh, this painting's up in the lodge. You see it in one of the hallways.
Okay. Chester Decat's The Sublime Secret. I wonder, does that have some sort of significance?
I'm sure it does. But I haven't gone this deep into this part yet.
All right.
So, something that is, you know, again, trying to give context, not spoil too much. The dark presence in Alan Wake responds to creativity, but it has to be pure acts of creation. You know, the fact that Alan's words seem to be influencing reality are because he is a creative person. He's a true artist.
Okay.
And a lot of what Hartman is talking about here is, you know, sort of like the rules of, you know, creativity. Like, what is creation?
Is this almost like a guideline for how to kind of, like, you could extrapolate data from how you could connect to the dark power through this? Or like what to and what not to do?
You could extrapolate that from this.
Whoa.
Although it's clear that he's not trying to write a guide to like help people do that so much as he's trying to stimulate certain behavior in people so that he can manipulate that.
Okay, interesting.
And I mean, this just goes on. I mean, this is expansive. It's very in depth. And and at the end, he kind of like invites you to the Cauldron Lake Lodge, the facility that he runs. So
very cool.
Here is a little bit of the history of Bright Falls.
Now that's cool because there's a lot of we talked about this in the other videos. I've played. There's a lot of little like blurbs in different like areas like the mine,
historical markers, and placards.
And like sometimes that stuff's just kind of boring filler stuff, but like, you know, like everything else in this game, it related to the story in some way. So it's cool to see that expanded on. So we have like stuff talking about how it became a mining town and stuff like that.
And so
we have a little bit about Bigfoot, of course.
Yeah, and they talk about how Bright Falls has always been kind of steeped in the supernatural or the strange.
It did seem like the people, I can't remember specific examples, but it seemed like the people of Bright Falls did kind of have this openness to, you know, spooky shit in the forests.
Right. So there's a local photographer, an amateur bird watcher, who would only go on record as to say that these ravenous nocturnal birds were, quote, a local species. These are the fucking really annoying birds. This is a woman's depiction of shadow men that she saw at some point.
Wow.
So, you know, the enemies that Alan faces in the game are things that people in the area have experienced in different ways.
Over the decades, over like over a long amount of time.
Another, you know, one of the depictions of the Taken. And this just goes like deeper and deeper into all sorts of just like, you know, basically local I don't know what I'm trying to say. I wanted to say urban legends, but they're more like rural legends.
Rural legends.
Know?
This, I'm just skimming through. It seems like it's a tale of a couple who had been married for 43 years died almost simultaneously on the opposite sides of town, both of apparent natural causes. So it's cool to like dive into little like happenings and events of mystery from Bright Falls past.
Private letters from local archives, however, made reference to an unsavory bargain that Bergdale had made and that strange forces were involved in their passing, which sounds like they're dealing with the dark presence as Emil Hartman had been, and it's really interesting to kind of understand more that the thing Alan is experiencing isn't necessarily unique to him.
Yeah, it's not an isolated, because there are parts in the game where you're like, is Alan, experiencing some sort of psychosis?
Yeah,
but no, he is indeed not.
We've got a photo of the famous Bucktooth Charlie.
Charlie.
Here is an old news clipping about the volcanic quake that sinks the island where the cabin was that Alan stays at.
That you first get to with Alice.
And these are old. Here's an obituary for Barbara Jagger.
Barbara Jagger, a beacon of light.
Here are some news clippings dealing with some of the trouble that Alan Wake found himself in as a alcoholic and jerk.
And back in New York or wherever he's from.
Yeah, before the events of the game.
Which they allude to in the game, but it's interesting to see to what extent. This looks like, oh my God, this is a deputy's report.
Yeah, so there's a police report here in Bright Falls of a domestic disturbance. Janet Score of 28 Redwood Place, neighbor of Andrew and Sarah Davis, Miss Score reported shouting and smashing sounds, including breaking glass. The house turned out to be unoccupied with major physical damage to the interior. This is an unsolved case.
Yeah.
And here you have Clay Stewart had under the Freedom of Information Act, had requested more information about some of the stuff going on in that region, and it was
rejected?
Yeah, well, my FOIA request did confirm the Nightingale was not on official business. One can only wonder what the, quote, ongoing investigation of an unrelated matter refers to. So, they cannot furnish the records related to Nightingale as they remain classified due to ongoing investigation. So, the feds are aware of it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because
they haven't intervened or haven't seemed to?
No, but the fact they're still aware of it, there would be a federal investigation. It does make me wonder how much of it is tied to the Federal Bureau of Control that you would encounter in the game Control.
Yes, this also makes mention of a partner that Agent Nightingale had that was murdered.
Yes.
And that is directly related to his actions in and against Alan Wake.
Yeah, so essentially his partner is a victim of the Dark Presence, and Nightingale does believe that is Alan's fault.
Which is not touched on in the game, I don't believe.
I don't really think so. It might be mentioned in one of the manuscript pages somewhere, but it's not made explicit. I didn't understand that until my third time through everything.
There are a lot of manuscript pages locked away in the hardest difficulty, so maybe that stuff is mentioned there, but I can't beat that game on hardest difficulty.
No, I actually just looked up a YouTube recently that had the entire manuscript,
collection?
Yeah, as a little compilation. And wow. I started listening to that just to try to get a grip on what I may have missed. Because also, I don't know if it's clear what order you find the pages in, if the pages go in that order. And it's sometimes hard to remember. You pick up a manuscript page and then a bunch of crazy shit happens. And you're like, wow, what was that 2 paragraphs I read an hour ago?
Yeah. You lose it pretty quickly, especially when a bus is falling on you.
So this is a picture of Diver's Isle before 1970 when it disappeared, and they make note of this strange, dark...
oh, that's not a tree at all.
No,
that's a mass.
Yeah.
Of birds, maybe? Is that darkness birds?
They don't know what it is. And then also, this also has a strange dark mass in the corner here.
It's orbs.
Yeah, so these are old photos they found.
When you see a picture on the internet and it has a little reflecting circle in the background, it's nighttime. Those are ghosts and stuff.
So,
you know what I'm talking.
I totally do. Yeah, I'm a big paranormal
guy. All right.
There's an afterword here by Clay Stewart, and yeah, I don't know. That's basically the gist of it all. I feel like I skipped something. Maybe I didn't. No, I definitely didn't. I'm just thinking of these photos of the area here, which these are really interesting to me because it does show that like the dark presence was strong here and was making itself known. Even it could even be photographed.
Yeah.
You know?
Previous to much previous. How much should I say? This? Much before the events of the game, or even the stuff that we know that takes place previous to the game.
Right. So that is, the gist of what's in the Alan Wake files. It is like way more dense than I thought because I started to skim the PDF, and just because of the way it's presented, like you can kind of just like click through and like, you're scrolling through a PDF and it's like, it didn't.
It doesn't have the same weight as like holding a book and reading it.
Right, and also like I didn't realize how in depth it is and how dense it is. Like, I've been reading this on and off for like a week or two now, just kind of like picking up for a little bit here and there, and it's the kind of thing I can't really just like breeze through because it's like, I'm making these connections. I want to like go back and reference other work. So this is really some hardcore fan shit, I would say, where you could just like read it
and think it's cool.
Yeah, and it's an interesting little artifact, but if you're thinking more deeply about the way the Remedy connected universe could work and what is going on between Alan Wake and Control and the inevitable sequel and everything that happened in between, this really exposes a lot of stuff that is it's just crazy that this is something that most people have access to if they own the game.
Yeah.
But I could see a lot of people not even looking into those files.
Well, a lot of times in games, if you get like a cool little PDF, or even if it's like a comic, like, I don't know, sometimes it's kind of just like lame. Or not lame, but just like, oh, cool. That was neat.
It feels like very superfluous, just like, oh, it's a little promo item.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I think if you purchased, if you had this and you read it, and you were very familiar with all the information, you made all those connections, like probably previous to even Control coming out, if you were like the people that did buy this and read it, when they started playing through Control, there's probably a lot of things that were like, oh, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. And they remember reading maybe something on this that touched on it. Just all that supplemental experience or supplemental information and stuff that you can check out connects to all this other stuff that, like, I don't know, like it's almost like a primer for the next installment.
Yeah, it is. And, in revisiting some of the stuff from Control and some of the... Because there's so many collectibles and, like, little, text blurbs in that game.
Right.
And it's the same with this, where it's like, some of what you learn in here is mentioned briefly or, peripherally or somehow, like, in Alan Wake, but you don't get the full story.
Right.
And
yeah.
I realize, like, one thing that Remedy is really good at is presenting an idea from multiple perspectives and understanding that each perspective is only one small part of a story. You're only seeing part of an image. And so they never give you, here it is, here's a big exposition dump. They give you, here's what it looks like from this angle. Here's what it looks like from this angle.
Yeah.
Here's what it looks like from this angle. Now, compile the image for yourself.
And you put it together how you see fit.
Yeah.
A lot of really great, successful universes do stuff like that. Like, that's what Warhammer does. Warhammer, like, you can read books and books on Warhammer, and then you can read another book about that same event, and it seems like an entirely different thing took place.
Right.
I think that's a testament to really good writing. I remember hearing Sam Lake talking about, one of his writing philosophies is that he never wants to give you that full picture because the stories that stuck with him and that he believes stick with other people the most are the ones that are a little open-ended, where there's a mystery. Yeah. He thinks that mystery is like the sexy part of the story that like really stays in your mind, because when you get a whole experience, it feels nice, but it leaves you sometimes.
Totally.
Whereas this, you're like, man, I need to know more. I want to go back. I want to dig deeper.
It gives you something to chew on. And I guess this is where we'll leave it for now. So That is the Alan Wake files. Again, you can find this PDF in the game files. I also just found it online, just searching for like Alan Wake files PDF. You can. It's a free download. It's easy to come by.
You're not stealing it.
If you do want the hard copy, you can find a boxed copy of the game on eBay still, probably between $50 and $100, depending on how it goes. I have not ever seen this book listed on its own.
Individually? You think it only exists inside and people aren't selling it separate either?
I don't see why they would.
All right.
So not to say it couldn't happen, but it seems rare. And be sure to check out the channel for more Alan Wake videos and information. And until next time, see ya.
Waketober. Wanktober.